Sorry for screaming in the microphone. That wasn't nice. But hello, welcome to the Introverts Talk 2 podcast. My name is Kirsten. I'm your host. I am recording on a day I wouldn't usually record, but you wouldn't know that, so why am I saying it? Today I want to talk about why I don't think being an introvert is really that bad, the way people paint it out to be, right? There's always this, I feel like, negative connotation on being an introvert, and it makes me feel kind of sad sometimes because I don't hate being an introvert. I don't not like being an introvert. There's some times when I feel like, I wish I was more social or had more of a social life. But for the most part, once I get out there and try to be social, I'm like, yeah, I want to go home. So you want to hear the pros or the cons first? I heard cons. So that's what I'm going to go with. Okay. These are just from basically my experiences, and yes, they're going to be looped into the whole idea of college and everything like that because I am a college student and that's my most recent real being thrown into a super social setting. So that's kind of what I'm relating this to. I might also be relating to work, but those are just a couple of the social settings that I'm relating to right now. So the first and the main con is difficulty making friends. We all have that difficulty, if you're an introvert, I think. Unless you found a nice group of introverted people for you, lucky you. But for me, I definitely have difficulty jumping into the social setting. Do I like being social? Sometimes, when we're talking about something meaningful. Do I like small talk? Absolutely not. Who likes small talk? Small talk is absolutely terrible and uncomfy, especially with people that you don't know. It's just what are we talking about? Why are we talking about the weather? Who even decided to bring this up? It's just really hard for me to even figure out where to start making friends at my age of 21. I feel like anyone that has friends has had friends since high school. They brought them from high school into their adult life. Whether they're super cool or they're just acquaintances now or they kind of keep in touch, at least they have somebody from high school. Me, I moved to high schools basically my senior year of high school, and all of my friends were kind of left behind, but at that point we were kind of starting to do our own thing. It was kind of starting to get, a little bit separated. We were starting to drift in our own ways, but not in a way that we weren't friends, So I never really kept any of my friends or many of my friends from high school. I have a few. Even though we're not close, I mean, not close. We're not we don't live near each other. We live far away, okay? We're not in the same area on this earth. So I don't really even get to see many people that I did hang on to. And that's really hard. So my main goal when I got to college was to make new friends and try to get out there and be more social. That was so difficult. I don't understand why that had to be so difficult for me. But I tried, which I gave myself a gold star for. I tried and I failed. If I'm being totally honest. But that's okay, I think, because you learn from what you did. Maybe you could have tried a little bit more. Maybe you could have, started the conversation instead of ended it, or I don't know, you know what I mean? But at my age of 21, I have no idea where to start. I don't know where to start. Where do you start? Because, at this age, no one's really welcoming friends into their life, And I honestly, I just do not know where to start. So when you're alone, for an extended amount of time, when you're by yourself, you start talking to yourself. It might be simple, asking yourself, wait, where did I put that? But then, if you start spending a lot of time by yourself, you start answering those questions. Wait, where did I put that? Oh, wait, you put it over there. So that causes you, I think, to be really in your head. And it's hard to think rationally, I think, because when you are an introvert and you don't really go out much, you don't really socialize with other people other than the people in your mind. I probably sound crazy right now, but you get really in your own head and you really start to overthink things because you don't have any outside perspective to kind of like balance that out. So sometimes like I feel like other people would, if they were going through an issue or they had a predicament, going through a predicament or whatever, and they had friends, they could call them and be like, hey, let's go out for lunch. And then that ends up being a part of the conversation. And maybe that other friend helps them straighten that out in some way. And I feel like that is a necessity. I think that's definitely a necessity to have some outside perspective, kind of like, put you in your place and tell you, that how you're thinking is probably not the best way to think, or not the most beneficial way to think or the healthiest way to think. Because sometimes other people can like look at that and say, I don't know if that's normal or right or whatever. I don't know. For example, you might just be like being really hard on yourself about something, about the way that you look even. Let's say it's the way that you look, or like your goals and maybe it's your work ethic. You're like, I just feel like I am not working hard enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not even like there. I can't even like try to act like I'm a good worker because I'm overthinking all the time. I procrastinate and I'm just not a good worker. I don't accomplish anything. Someone on the outside might be like, hey, I've seen you accomplish so many different things. What are you talking about? And you're just so in your head and so like hard on yourself that you don't even like give yourself a chance to step back and realize that and give yourself a pat on the back and be like, oh wait, I did do all of this and I did accomplish a lot of goals here. So let me just like calm down, step away, and just like give myself maybe a breather, a break. And when you do that, I think it allows you to, think rationally. So when you have that outside perspective telling you or putting you in your place, I feel like it's really helpful. But for introverts, I feel like we don't always have that. And so we just end up overthinking a lot of things. And that sucks. No one likes to overthink. I don't like to overthink because then that leads to anxiety, unnecessary anxiety. By the way, I saw this post this morning that was like, wait, why am I overthinking right now? This is my brain. Like, I can think whatever I want. And it's like, that is so true. Like, why am I overthinking? And I wish it was that easy to like just flip a switch off and be like, stop overthinking and move on. But it's not easy at all. Not in the slightest. Another thing that I hate about being introverted is that sometimes you're cool. Like you feel like, oh my gosh, time alone. Love it. Couldn't be better. But then other times you're just like, dang, I really wish I could go out and see people and like have friends and have someone to call that can like hang out with me. And sometimes you feel a little lonely. You get those little fleeting moments of loneliness. But as soon as I go out, I'm like, ugh, I want to go home. Like, this is not it. Like, this was cool, but now I'm not really feeling it. It's not my vibe. But anyway, my point is sometimes like it's overwhelming because you look at other people and you're like, wow, like they have a whole bunch of friends, or that's what it looks like. They have friends, they have people to call, they have a social life, and it's kind of it hurts a little bit to like feel like you can't make friends or you don't know how to make friends, because of course you want to make friends, like you want someone to call, but it's really hard to know where to start and to choose your people and to know like enter a friend group. It's not easy. And sometimes watching other people have these like successful friendships or appearing successful friendships and relationships and stuff like that, it kind of sucks because it's just like, wow, I really wish I had that. I remember feeling this way when I was living at college because, when you're at college, super social setting, everybody's out and being social, but it's also not social. It's the weirdest thing. It is so super social, but so not. Like, no one is talking, but everyone is hanging out with somebody, it looks like. Like, no one's talking to you, but everybody has someone to hang out with. Somebody is at the coffee shop on campus studying with a partner, or someone is walking on campus with a boyfriend or girlfriend, or someone has someone in class that they meet up with every single time and they sit next to each other every single time, and it looks like they met here, they met in class, but why can't I do that? Like, what is keeping me from meeting people and talking and having a conversation and possibly making a friend. Why is it so difficult for me? I don't feel like I'm that type of person that is just, repulsive. I hope not. But I just don't know. I really don't. I think it definitely has something to do with, obviously, the kind of the starting the conversation vibe. Like, if you were to start the conversation, you might have someone to talk to. But even then, I feel like it never works. There was actually one person recently that I talked to that we were having a conversation and time was going by, and I didn't even realize how much time went by because we were having a conversation, and that is like the only time it almost made me cry. I'm not even gonna lie. I was like, wow, so I'm not crazy. I can have a conversation with people. And, and be comfortable and, feel like okay, like I can talk and time can go by and fly, and like I feel like we're having a good conversation. Like I felt like almost like this sense of like warmth because it had been so long since I felt that, or like I felt like I could talk to somebody and have a normal, chill, casual conversation. So I thank that person. So those are some of the cons about being introverted. And I really don't think there's that many because, again, I don't think it's that bad. I like my solitude and I like being by myself. I don't hate being by myself. A lot of people think being by yourself, oh, you're automatically lonely. Like, you're not lonely because you're by yourself. People might love being by themselves, as I do. But there's a difference between being alone and being lonely. Two totally different things. And people need to note that in their mind. Just because someone's alone does not mean they're lonely. If you see someone at a restaurant eating by themselves, don't be like, oh, that's so sad. That might be the best day of their life. Or, you never know. Maybe it's not the best day of their life and they wanted to spend some time by themselves because they needed to decompress. Sometimes people really just do like being alone. I wish I can say I've eaten somewhere by myself. Actually, that's true. I have eaten somewhere by myself. I jumped out of my comfort zone recently and sat down at a place and ate by myself. And I felt marvelous after. I was like, wow, I did that. But anyway, let's talk about some of the pros. Because there are pros. Let's not get ahead of ourselves and be like, oh wait, maybe it is a bad thing to be an introvert. No, let's talk about some of the pros. I might be an overthinker, but I am extremely thoughtful about certain things. Okay, I'm extremely thoughtful. I like to think things through to make sure that I'm making the right decision. I don't like impulsive decisions because I feel like in the long run, sometimes they cause you to trip up. So does it take me longer to make bigger decisions? Yes. But I feel like, it's important to make sure you're thinking things through. Make sure you're making the right decision. So as an introverted person, I always have so much time to think. And I think and think and think. Does that cause me to overthink sometimes? Yes, but I feel like sometimes, most of the time, I come to a conclusion. When you're really thoughtful, I think you make good decisions, and you make good decisions when you're thoughtful because you're allowing yourself to really like think about all the possibilities that can come from it, and like maybe just allowing yourself to figure out what the best decision is for you. I really like observing. I'm also an observer. I've always been an observer. When I moved to my new high school, from my old high school, I moved to a whole different state. I moved from New Jersey to Florida, and I was in a Florida high school. It was very different. Culture shock. Kind of. It was in a weird way because we're in the same country, but these people are different, okay? It's not like, I'm not going to say anything positive or negative, but I'm just saying, like, Florida, Jersey people, two different people, okay? So I would sit in class. I didn't make friends in high school. I made one friend. but I didn't make many friends in high school, but I did do a lot of sitting and observing, watching people. How are these people acting around other people? What are their vibes like? And how can I, figure this out? Are these people that I want to be around in my life? Do I want to make friends with people like this? Not like they were negative, but I'm just saying, like, certain people. I like to read people and figure out like their vibe, I'll talk to them, but I just want to know kind of what your vibe is. And I'm very thoughtful on who I let in my life as well. I don't want to just let any random person in my life that, is probably going to stab me in the back. I don't know. I just want to make sure that I'm watching you with somebody else because I value, who I let in my life and my feelings and, everything like that. So I'm very observant, and I think that's a good thing. I think it's important to observe and to be aware of your surroundings and be aware of who you're talking to. Like, you don't know who you're talking to sometimes, but being aware of that is really important. So yes, being an observant person is, I think, a pro of being an introvert, because usually if you're introverted, you're not talking, so you're probably looking around and reading the room. Reading the room is also very important. Some people just barge into a room and just act however they want to act. And sometimes it's not the right way to act. It's not the vibe in the room. And I don't want to be that person. Not to say that, it's always a bad thing. Again, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just saying that, sometimes it's important to make sure that you're bringing the right energy into the room. And I want to make sure that I do that because, I feel like that's important to have with you for your entire life. It's a maturity thing, I think. And I like to give off a mature vibe. I feel like I am mature in some ways, and I feel like I'm goofy in others. But I'm just saying, I like to give off a vibe that I'm in control of, my emotions and what comes out of my mouth. And I like to kind of show that through my body language and through, just how I am with whoever I'm with in the room, reading the room. Anyway, moving on. Again, spending time by yourself, not a bad thing. Not a bad thing. We like spending time by ourselves. When I was in campus, when I was living down near campus where I spent so much time by myself. I liked the majority of it. I'm not gonna lie. And I kind of miss it sometimes. Sometimes I would living by myself. Awesome. All right. And this is gonna sound corny, but sometimes you can just literally leave the house. You would just leave the house. It could be 11 o'clock and go get some food. But if you were at home living with your parents, you'd have to be hey, I'm leaving the house to get some food. And then they'll be why are you leaving? It's 11 o'clock. That's ridiculous. And then you have all these other opinions that you never asked for. But when you're by yourself, you can do whatever you want. Those TikToks and it says oh, when I realize I have free will. You can do whatever you want when you're by yourself. It's the best. Say you were with somebody else, right? And you were just hanging out and there was some specific food that you wanted, right? But they didn't want that food. They wanted something else. So now you guys are arguing over what food you want. But if you're by yourself, you can eat whatever you want. You don't have to consult the other person before you go and get the food because, you're by yourself. I think that's awesome. When you're by yourself, you can listen to whatever music you like without thinking about anybody else because why? You're by yourself. I like spending time by myself because it's really, it helps me regroup and just clear my mind. I like clearing my mind. I like I really do like being by myself majority of the time. I like putting my earbuds in and listening to my music. I like putting my earbuds in and listening to a podcast. I like walking around the store sometimes without having somebody on your heels I'm ready to leave this store. I'm going to go to the next store. I like being by myself, taking my time and not worrying about time, not worrying about everybody else and what everybody else is doing. It's such a chill thing to be by yourself. Your own thoughts. You can complete a thought sometimes. Sometimes being around people is draining. I'm going to say majority of the time being around other people is draining. My social battery is not, it's like the battery on an old iPhone, okay? It drains very quickly. And, I get to 100%, I recharge and I go out and then I'm like, I'm ready to go home. I've said that like 3 times in this one episode. But I strongly value my alone time. And I'm going to tell you why you should, okay? If you're someone that is struggling with like thinking that you shouldn't be able to enjoy your alone time, like your alone time, like you should be more social. You should be as social as you possibly can. This is my opinion. And I think I've said this in a different podcast episode. You never know what the future of your life is going to look like. You don't. You may never get this time back. So if you're an introverted person and you find yourself with a lot of free time and a lot of time by yourself, enjoy it. Please just enjoy it. I feel like you should enjoy it. Because sometimes I look around and I'm like, wow, when I get to that point in my life, I probably won't have any free time. I won't have any time to just decompress and be by myself. So while this time may seem lonely sometimes, enjoy that. I feel like you should enjoy that. That's how I get through it. And whenever I feel like super lonely, like, oh, I'm lonely, I try to think of like the fact that, okay, this is time that people would die for. Okay, I won't say die for. That sounds kind of morbid. But this is time that people would like really like, and then I was going to say kill for it. Like that's also morbid. Okay, this is time that people would love to have. And I have it. I just have it. But I'm looking at other people like, wow, I wish I was on the go at all times. I wish I had someone at lunch with every other day. I wish I had like, a meeting to go to for like my art. I don't know. I'm just being, whatever. But some people would probably really love just time by themselves and a day to decompress. And I have that. And I have time to like do school and work on projects and things that I really want to work on and put my effort towards. Some people might have things that they want to work on, but they can't get to it because they don't have the time, the energy, or the time to be by themselves, or the time to even do it because they're working on other things, whatever. I have that time. And if you have that time, I feel like you should use it to your advantage. And sometimes, okay, here's the only downside to that. Sometimes I like really guilt myself. Like if I want to take a nap, I'd be like, I should not be taking a nap right now. I should be working towards whatever I want to work towards, because if I'm taking a nap, I'm going to like waste time, and then like all that time, an hour wasted. I'm not going to lie. It's probably 2 hours. 2 hours wasted where I could have just been like working on something amazing and I wasted it. But you can't really do that to yourself too often because you will upset yourself. But all I'm saying is, if you have solitude, if you have quiet time, if you have peace, I feel like it's something that you should really savor. And it's not that bad. Being an introvert, I'm not gonna lie, it's not that bad. So anybody that thinks it's bad or is trying to push you to jump out of your comfort zone and be extroverted, you're gonna have to block them out, because I feel like being an introvert is honestly way more chill. If it matches your vibe, if you're a chill person and you're an introvert, I feel like, vibe with it. Why do I keep saying vibe? Like, this is my new favorite word for the week. I don't know why, but whatever. It's definitely, I feel like, something you should enjoy. Don't let it pass you by and then you get to a point in your life where you're like, wow, I really wish I enjoyed that time in my life. And if the only reason you don't like being an introvert is because someone else says it's negative, rethink that. Because you're you like what you like. And if you like being by yourself, that's cool. That should be chill. That should be cool, especially nowadays. People are crazy. The world is crazy. And if you want to stay home, that is totally valid. So that's all I'm saying. And I digress. I am done talking for today. Thank you for listening to this episode. If you want to follow me on my socials, my main social on TikTok, like my account is .KirstenH, and my name is spelled on the cover of this podcast. And then if you want to follow my other accounts, the link tree is in my bio of that account where all of my other accounts are listed. So I would love if you check that out. My art accounts, Kirsten Arts, are on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. So if you want to check those out, look at my art. I would love that too. But anyway, thank you for listening to this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I actually feel like this was a positive or a successful episode. So that's good. But thanks for listening. And I hope to have you back in the next episode. And yeah, we're done. Goodbye.